This is question number 3 on practice homework 10 for module 14. So this is a very standard question on using the residual operating income model to do the forecasting and valuation of the equity. So part A asks us to calculate net operating assets for the most recent year, which is 2016. In order to do that, let me first copy the balance sheet to my worksheet. So I want to paste by special and by text. And I want also to copy the numbers, copy the income statement, because later on I will also need the income statement. So just copy it here, again paste by text. So there's some places which are not copied appropriately, so I just need to copy the number here. And then I want to switch this to column because so make the future year on the right. The reason I want to do that is because if you check the table here, you will find out all the future years actually are on the right. So I just want to follow that order. So now I can work on the calculation of NOA. I know that NOA is basically the, so if I add like 2 more rows here just to leave more space, it's basically operating asset minus operating liabilities, right? That's NOA. So then what are the operating assets? So we just check each item on the asset side and see which one is operation related. Accounts receivable is operating asset, and inventory is operating assets, and financing receivables net is also operating asset, because even though this is financing, but this is actually based on accounts receivable. So it's using accounts receivable as collateral to borrow, so it's still operation related. And other current assets, normally we also assume this is operation related. And net PPE is operation related, and financing receivables and goodwill, purchased intangible assets, and deferred tax assets. And all these items marked in red are operation related. Right, for the liability side, we start from accounts payable, right, and income taxes payable, and accrued compensation, and deferred revenue, and other current liabilities. And then long-term debt is not, it's financing related. Income taxes payable, right, and deferred revenue. So this is long-term and this is short-term, and other long-term liabilities. So we have done marking the operation-related assets and liabilities. So then we just need to calculate the operating assets and operating liabilities, right? Operating assets is basically the sum of all these items marked in red on the asset side. So here we just need to sum up the items starting from accounts receivable, and so we just use 2 summation sign because we have this total current assets, which we leave that out. So this is basically my accounts, operating assets. So then drag the cell to the other year, I get the number for 2016. Operating liabilities is calculated similarly. So it's summation of this all these items on the liability side marked in red. So again, I want to use 2 summation sign here because I have 2 blocks of red items. All right, so I can just and then drag the cell to the other year. So then take the difference, right? Take the difference between operating assets and operating liabilities, and that is basically the number I need. So 26,472, just copy the number back. And then B, compute net operating profit after tax for 2016, assuming a federal and state statutory tax rate of 37%. Round your answer to the nearest whole number. So NOPAT, if you check the formula, NOPAT is basically net operating profit before tax minus tax on operating profit. And tax on operating profit is further equal to tax expense plus this chunk, right? Pre-tax net non-operating expense times statutory tax rate. So we start from net operating profit before tax. So let me go back to my worksheet. And now we need to work on the income statement, right? NOPBT. So normally this is simply the operating income. So we just copy the number, operating income. So then I need to calculate the tax on NOPBT. The formula is tax expense, right? Tax expense is provision for income taxes, and then plus the net. If you go back to the formula, it's net pre-tax net non-operating expense. So basically, this is all the items after the operating income, before the taxable income. So if you check the items, you will see that interest income, interest expense, and other income net. And then interest and other income net is basically the sum of all these items. So since we already have this sort of aggregate item, I just use this aggregate item. But notice here it's net non-operating expense. So if this is income, so we need to put a negative sign in front of that income, and then multiply by the statutory tax rate, which is given by 37%, right? So that is basically my tax on operating profit before tax, right? So then I need to follow the rounding requirement. So if you go back, and I guess that's asking us to round to the whole dollar. So, and then this is the tax, and drag the cell to the other year. So NOPAT now is simply the difference between these two numbers, and then minus the tax on NOPBT, right? So, and that is basically so then I just need to copy this number, right? 10,575 back to part B. And then part C is asking us to forecast all these values. Sales, we have two rows for sales. One is asking us to round to 2 decimal place. The other one is asking us to round to the nearest whole number. And the NOPAT, NOA, or both are rounded to the nearest whole number. And then we need to use the sales rounded to the nearest whole number for these two calculations. So to do that, let me first put the year number, right? This is 2016, and the next year is this year number plus 1. So then I can drag the cell to the right. So this is basically the horizon period, and this is terminal, right? So 2016, I need to have sales 2 places and sales 0 places, right? And then NOPAT and NOA, basically. So sales 2 places. For this current year, I can just copy the number from the income statement, right? Copy the number from the income statement. So that's basically this total revenue here. And the same, so for the 0 place, I can just use the round function in Excel, round function, sales, and keep 0 decimal place. Right? It's for these two numbers, it's the same because it's already integer number, a whole number. But starting from 2017, we need to use the assumptions for the sales growth rate, right? So go back to the assumptions. Sales growth for 2017 is 1%, and for 2018, between 2018 and 2020 is 2%, right? It's 2%. And the reason why this becomes 0 is because I choose to keep 0 decimal place. So here I want to use the percentage sign, and so 2019 is going to be the same as 2018 and 2020. So 2021 terminal period goes back to 1%, right? So for the 2017 sales, it's basically 2016 sales times 1 plus this growth rate. But then I need to keep 2 decimal place, right, following the rounding requirement. So then I can drag the cell all the way to the right. And then I can also drag the cell all the way to the right because I already used the round function for this. And for NOPAT, I can just copy the number, right? But if you copy the number here, it's actually will calculate based on, because this is in formula format. So I just want to copy the number. So I actually paste special, right? Paste by values. And for NOA, I just also do the same. Just copy the number which I calculated earlier for the current year. So paste the special and value. So, and then in order to calculate the future years, NOPAT and NOA, I also need the information about NOPM and NOAT, right? NOPM is net operating profit margin, and NOAT is basically the net operating asset turnover. So net operating profit margin is defined to be the NOPAT divided by sales, and net operating asset turnover is sales divided by NOA, right? So we just copy the number. And this is a 1.86, just directly type it. So 2017 number for the NOPAT is basically the sales, right? It equals the sales. Notice that I have followed the rounding requirement by using the sales rounded to the nearest whole number. So I used the second row, the sales on the second row, right? Times, because I want to use this NOPM times this NOPM, because NOPM is NOPAT divided by sales. So when I know sales, I can just get NOPAT by multiplying sales by NOPM. But here I want to fix this cell because when I drag the cell all the way to the right, this won't change. But I also want to use the round function to keep 0 decimal place. And that's what I want to do. So drag all the way to the right. And then for NOA, I can do this calculation similarly. So this is basically using the NOAT. Remember, NOAT is defined to be sales divided by NOA. So in order to get NOA, I actually need to divide sales by this NOA. But I also need to use the round function, right? Round function. Using that round to the change this format not to be in the percentage term, but in the number, just general. And I need to fix this, right? I forgot to do that. So I fix the cell, and now I can drag all the way to the right. So the rest of the job is simply to copy all these numbers back to the table here. I have done copying all these numbers into this table, so we just continue this. D, estimate the value of a share of Cisco common stock using the residual operating income model as of This date assume a discount rate of 10%, common shares outstanding, a net non-operating obligations of this. Notice here it's a negative number, so that means it's actually an investment rather than a liability. So we start from the calculation of ROPI. So going back to our worksheet, ROPI. So we know that ROPI equals NOPAT, right? And then minus the beginning value of NOA. So relative to 2017, the beginning value is the last year's NOA, which is 2016, the NOA. So, and then that times the discount rate, 10%, right? The formula is here. So you can see that, and then I need to follow the rounding requirement to round this to 0 decimal place. You can see that based on this round to the nearest whole number. Actually, if you check the table, you can see that almost all the numbers are rounded to the nearest whole number, except for the discount factor and the final stock price. So discount factor, we need to round to 5 decimal places, and the stock price, we need to round to the 2 decimal places. So ROPI, and then we just track the sale to the end of the period, terminal period. So that's our, and then the next row is simply the discount factor, right? So this is basically 1 over 1 plus the discount rate 10%. And here for the first year, I don't need the power, but I will still put the power in because later on I want to drag the cell to the right to get the number for the other years. So it's going to be this number and minus 2016. And this is 1, and this is 1 because I didn't keep the required number of places, decimal places. So I need to put this to be 5. So now I can drag the cell all the way to the right. I don't need this for the terminal period. So now I can just calculate the present value of horizon ROPI. So this is simply the ROPI multiplied by its corresponding discount factor. Again, I need to round this number to the whole dollar, and I need to drag the cell all the way to the right. Not all the way to the right, stop at the final year of the horizon period. And then I can calculate the cumulative of present value of horizon ROPI. So this is basically equals sum of these 4 present values. And so I also need to calculate the present value of terminal ROPI, right? So this is going to be the terminal ROPI divided by the discount rate 10% minus the growth rate in the terminal period. But then this is so far the number is present value in terms of the year 2020. So I still need to discount this 4 years back, right? 2020 to 2016, 4 years back. So the power here is 4 to get the present value in terms of 2016. So then I also need to use the round formula, round function in Excel to get the desired decimal place. All right, so and then this is, and now I can just drag the cell. No, I don't need to drag the cell here actually. So the firm value using this ROPI model is simply the NOA plus the present value of expected ROPI. So if I add up these 2 present values, cumulative of present value of horizon ROPI and the present value of the terminal ROPI, that gives me the present value of the expected ROPI. So I also need the NOA number, right? NOA number. So I can just copy the number here, and now I can sum up these three numbers to get the total firm value. So the total firm value, and then I need to deduct NNO and non-controlling interest, right? So NNO in this case turns out to be a negative number, so I just put a negative number here. And NCI is from the balance sheet, right? So NCI is right here, non-controlling interest is also a negative number. So I just copy the number down here. But notice when I do the calculation, right, equity value, I use the negative number because I need to subtract all this NNO and NCI from firm value to get the equity value, right? So when I do the subtraction, I subtract a negative number, it end up with adding a positive number. But if you check the requirement of this problem, it says do not use negative signs with any of your answers below. So when I finally put my numbers back to the table, I need to get rid of this negative sign in front of the NNO and NCI. So then next variable is shares outstanding, and this is directly provided to be 5,020 million shares. So finally, price per share is simply I use the equity value divided by the shares outstanding, and I need to round this to two decimal place. So this gives me the final price. So the rest of the job is simply to put back all the numbers we calculated back to this table. So I have done copying all these numbers back to this table. Notice that, as I said, I got rid of the negative sign in front of the NNO. I just put their absolute values. So the final part E, the Cisco stock closed at $31.47 on September 8th, 2016. So our estimated value is slightly lower than the actual price, right? So how does your valuation estimate compare with this closing price? What do you believe are some reasons for the difference? What investment decision is suggested from your results? So A, our stock price estimate is higher than the Cisco market price, and this is obviously not correct, right? Our estimate value is lower. Stock prices are a function of expected NOPAT and NOA, and as well as the WACC discount rate. And this is actually correct because if you check the formula for the ROPI model, firm value equals NOA plus present value of expected ROPI. And ROPI further equals NOPAT minus beginning value of NOA times the discount rate, weighted average cost of capital. So from this formula, and present value further also depends on the discount factor, the weighted average cost of capital. So this formula already tells us that the firm value and hence the equity value, hence the stock price, depends on NOPAT, NOA, and WACC. So this is actually correct. Our stock price estimate is very close to the Cisco's market price as of this date, and that's actually true, right? If you check their difference is very small, indicating we believe that the stock is appropriately priced. This probably is right. Our low stock price estimate may be due to more optimistic, and this is not correct because our estimate is lower, so it cannot come from optimistic forecast or a lower discount rate. A lower discount rate will also make our estimate to be higher. So this is also not true. So now let me check my answer. And seems that we got all these numbers correct.